All right, let's dive in. We've all gotten pretty used to AI assistants, right? They can answer a question, draft an email for you, but what we're seeing now, it's the next great leap. It's not about just getting better answers anymore. It's about giving AI the power to actually achieve goals. We're talking about a fundamental shift from AI as just a tool to AI as a true teammate.
So just think about this for a second. What if instead of asking an AI to say, list the steps to plan a vacation, you could just tell it, hey, plan my vacation, and it actually did it. You know, booking the flights, finding the hotels, building out a whole itinerary, all by itself. Well, welcome to the world of AI agents.
You know, probably the easiest way to wrap your head around this change is with a simple analogy. Think of traditional AI like a calculator. You give it a very specific instruction, what's 2 plus 2, and it gives you a direct answer, 4. It's powerful, for sure, but it only does exactly what you tell it to do. Now, Agentic AI? That's more like a project manager. You give it a high-level goal, and it's the one that figures out the steps, pulls in the right tools, and manages the whole process to get the job done.
To make that kind of leap from a simple instruction follower to a goal-oriented project manager, you need a totally new architecture. It's a huge shift from what we call a linear pipeline to a dynamic learning loop.
So this is the old way. Traditional AI works on something called a static pipeline. It's a one-way street. You figure out your task, you gather and clean up a bunch of data, you train a model on that data, and then you deploy it. That's it. Once that model is out in the world, it's pretty much fixed. There's no real way for it to learn or adapt on the fly.
Right, so the really crucial thing to get here is that this whole model is fundamentally static. It's basically built on a snapshot of data from some point in the past. It can't learn or change once it's deployed, unless you go back and start the whole painful process all over again.
And this is the new paradigm. It's so different. Agentic AI completely throws out that static pipeline and replaces it with this dynamic, goal-oriented loop. It's not just spitting out a single output. It's in a constant cycle of planning, acting, and then taking the results of those actions to get better and evolve. It's literally learning as it goes.
Okay, so what's actually happening inside this loop? Let's peel back the layers a bit and look at how an AI agent really thinks and operates.
So, let's trace the journey around this loop. It all kicks off with a clear objective. Based on that goal, the agent can then choose the right LLM model for that specific job. Then, and this part is absolutely key, it integrates with tools and APIs. This gives it hands and eyes in the real world. Now that it has its goal and its tools, it can start to make autonomous decisions, planning and reasoning through all the steps it needs to take. And finally, it implements those actions and evolves based on what happened, feeding all that new information right back into the loop. It's this beautiful, constant cycle of doing, learning, and improving.
Okay, but wait a second. This is the big elephant in the room question, right? If we give an AI all this freedom to plan and act on its own, what stops it from just going off the rails and making stuff up? You know, what keeps it grounded in reality instead of just hallucinating?
And that really gets to the core problem with the large language models that act as the brains for these agents. Their knowledge is totally static. It literally has a cutoff date. They can't access your company's private files or see what happened in the news 5 minutes ago. And when they get stuck or don't know something, their tendency is to just guess, and guess with a whole lot of confidence. The solution to this is surprisingly elegant. Instead of trying to force-feed all the world's knowledge into the AI's brain, we just give it a library card. We give it a memory. And this technique is called Retrieval-Augmented Generation, or just RAG for short. The way RAG works is it connects the AI agent to external knowledge bases. So when you ask it something, the system's first move isn't to guess. It's to go retrieve relevant, up-to-date info from a trusted source. Then it uses that verified info to generate the answer. It completely grounds the agent in facts, not just its old training data. This quote just perfectly captures the whole philosophy behind RAG. We're shifting our expectations from omniscience to just enabling good research. It's way more reliable, it's always current, and it ends up being so much more powerful. And when you combine RAG with an AI agent's loop, you get this amazing thing called Agentic RAG. This is where the agent isn't just looking things up for one-off questions, it's using RAG inside its learning loop to build a real long-term memory. It actually learns from past conversations to give you answers that aren't just accurate, but are deeply aware of the context.
And honestly, in practice, it's a beautifully simple process. You ask a question. The system then searches its knowledge base for anything relevant. It takes those relevant snippets of info and literally stuffs them into the prompt it's about to send to the AI. Then, the AI generates its answer using that fresh, verified context. It's simple, but it is an absolute game changer.
So right about now, you're probably thinking, okay, this is incredible, but where on earth do I even start if I wanted to build something like this? Well, the good news is there's a pretty clear roadmap out there for learning these skills. It's called the Agentic AI Ladder.
And here it is. This is the Agentic AI Ladder. It breaks down the whole journey, from just getting your head around the absolute basics, all the way up to deploying a complex system of multiple agents in the real world. It's just a fantastic guide for anyone who wants to get their hands dirty.
And you don't have to climb the whole thing at once. The first few steps are actually super accessible. It really just starts with understanding the core concepts we've been talking about. What an agent even is, how it's different from a regular LLM, the basics of how RAG works, and getting a feel for that fundamental sense, plan, act, reflect loop.
And that brings us to a final, really powerful insight. When these advanced RAG systems go wrong and hallucinate, our first instinct is usually to blame the AI model itself. But here's the thing. More often than not, the problem is actually with the library, the retrieval system. If you give the AI bad information to work with, you're going to get a bad answer. The quality of your data and how you retrieve it, that is everything.
And that really brings us to what's next. We are moving from using AI as a simple tool to actually collaborating with it as a genuinely capable teammate. So, the real question for all of us is, what are the first complex, goal-oriented tasks we're going to be willing to hand over? The answer to that is going to shape the entire next decade of technology. Thanks for tuning in.